Australia, and welcome to the Rockpit, Zach. Thanks for chatting with us.
Of course.
And I mean, congrats on the new album, Hymns In Dissonance, which is out March 7 via Metal Blade. What an absolutely brutal album this is.
It's very,
And I
very
mean
not
that in the
nice.
most complimentary way.
Thank you.
It's heavy as hell, nasty, and just menacing. What made you decide to make, the heaviest album of your career 20 years on?
Well, there's every album, we kind of have a pool of riffs and demos we've all done, and then the album takes the shape of what everyone's feeling at the time, and that's what the album ends up being. And this time around, everyone was just the material was just aggressive. Everybody was just feeling the aggressive stuff, and it was just like, let's just do something fun and heavy. The last two albums have been serious and very personal and emotional. So let's just get pissed and have some fun. And I think that was the idea, kind of because at heart we all enjoy and like supernatural horror movies, gore movies, all that stuff like that. We're horror fans and we like things that that are unsettling in a sense. So that's kind of goes hand in hand with metal to an extent to get that across. So like it just all kind of fell into place for this album, and it was just what felt right.
Absolutely. Now, the album itself is, a little bit of a concept album, running through, the story of a cultist who's obviously recruiting people to join his cult. Um, you know, Again, when you look at the title of the album, Hymns in Dissonance, two very contradictory words, hymns being, you know, inclusive and celebratory in many ways, but dissonance being, the complete opposite
Yes.
of that. Um, I mean, when you say the love of horror movies that you guys all share, I mean, this would make an incredible movie in so many ways, and I mean, the soundtrack. I mean, it's obviously already there. Um, it's a really well put together record, I've got to admit. Obviously, the first two tracks being the interlude into the story of what makes the rest of the record.
Yeah, the concept started out a little it's like Phil didn't really start getting a concept until the material starts taking form. If he's got to know what the meat of the material is going to kind of be like, so he can know how to present the storyline or whatever. And uh, with this one, we were talking about like it's like in hymns, there's a few throwbacks lyrically to like This Is Exile and some song names from that album. And the idea originally was going to be like this guy who's totally insane, and he's the son of the guy from or the antagonist from This Is Exile, and he starts the cult, and he finds this sepulcher, like this tomb that has a portal in it where he can go in and out of different realities and be inside different people's bodies and commit these atrocities, which would have been the seven sins. But that was a little far fetched in a sense, and we had to kind of dial it back a little, which would still make a good movie. But so we dial it back a little bit, and then it is what it is now. And like you said, the first two tracks set the pace and set up the story, and then the other ones revolve around the seven deadly sins in a sense.
And when it comes to something like this, and having an album that is this heavy, and having that big a plot line behind it, it really is an amazing listen, and you take that all in as you're listening to the record, and I mean, what a ride it is. Some of the riffs on this record are just brutal. I love it. I mean, I guess I've got to ask the question. I mean, what's the tuning on a lot of these songs, because that's some of this stuff way down tuned.
Uh, we've been doing songs. The majority of it's in drop G. and we've been doing a lot of albums in drop G, but this time around we decided like, let's knock it down to F for a few parts. And the last time we did anything that low was New Era, and that's that was our third album. And so some parts like the end of Visceral and the end of Hymns is an F. And it was just like it does say a lot to make a riff heavy and not have it be low. There's bands that do that all the time. Like the majority of you know heavy death metal was just like maybe E flat, so or F sharp. So it's I mean uh D sharp, but the idea this time around is like, you know what? It's just so fun to riff in F, and we were just like, let's just have some parts here and there, so we don't overdo it, but it just really makes the impact hit even harder. So, the whole album's in drop G, and there's one song in drop A on this album, and that's Hate Cult. That's and which is probably the most aggressive song on the album, as far as like speed and just nonstop, uh, just nonstop like you know beating of your eardrums for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. And now the recording process of the album, I mean, how long did it take for you guys to piece it all together? Was there pressure from the label to get it done within a certain time frame? Or were you guys very meticulous in the way that you constructed the album?
We've got the writing process as far as our side of it goes pretty down. The thing is though, like we've gotten to the point where we realize you just can't force it. You just can't. I don't care how long it takes. You just can't force it. Otherwise, you get mediocre material. And so, yeah, the label's telling us to hurry, our manager's telling us to hurry, and they can set up a schedule all they want. But if there's anything we've learned by now, the schedule never works out like you plan it to. It just doesn't. So it took us a little while to write. The actual recording process probably took, you know, uh, with everyone, everyone, we did it. I engineered all of it. So we did it here at home. And, everyone's working around their schedules. People have kids, people like, and job, like little side jobs and stuff like that. And, Ben, our other guitar player, he lives in Nashville, which is about 2.5 hours away. So with everyone's schedule and, making it work out to where they can work around it, I think it took about 3 months to record, but then it took about it took about 6 months to write because we just weren't rushing it. We just like yeah, 5 to 6 months probably. We just took the time to do it because if there's anything we've learned as getting older is like you really need to write and then step away from stuff for a while and then come back to it because you kind of forget what you did, your ears are fresher, and first impressions are everything. If you listen back to a demo and you hear a part and you go, redo it. That's just how it
Absolutely.
is.
Absolutely. Now, I guess for yourself as a player and a writer, I mean, do you have, you know, folders upon folders of riffs and ideas that sit on your computer that once again you go, okay, that's got something. Don't know what it is, but we'll sit it over here for now.
That's what we do when we first start writing. We all have our own riffs and stuff in our own folders, and we all bring it over to my place, and we take a few days to sit and go through everybody's stuff from the past year or so, and just see what we like. And we put it kind of all into a folder, like a riffs of interest folder, I guess you could call it. And in the title of the demo, we'll put the BPM, like like 170 BPM or 200. That way, if we're you know, say we take okay, so we have that whole folder now, and we say let's start writing with this riff, and we'll put it in a project file, and we have this project file that's just a whole mess of those riffs like we're trying to build onto, and if something gets momentum, then we'll take it and put it separately in its own project file, and that ends up being a song. But but a lot of times, man, sometimes we'll start working on a song and it just loses momentum and it just kind of fizzles out. That's just part of it. And then the like the having those riff folders and having the, I mean, man, there's got to be, I have riff folders like from every album on this computer on this hard drive since like 2016. And the problem is, like you say, we'll keep these because you might use them, but like very seldom does it work out. You can go back to like 2016 and be like, grab a riff that's that BPM for what you're working on and it work because it just doesn't, the vibe's not the same. Everything was different back then. It very seldom works, but it does, like sometimes it does. That the intro to I'm having a brain fart right now. The track three on the album, that
Oh,
intro, that's
Diabolic Slumber.
Diabolic Stone. Yeah, yeah. That intro has been like that whole intro riff and everything. That riff's been around since like 2015 probably. We finally
Wow.
got to finally got to use it. It just happened to work out. So
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, you mentioned the album that sort of this sequels, I guess, to a certain degree, or that it I guess it builds on. So this is Exile. So was there always an idea or a want to do sort of a concept?
I think this time we wanted to do a concept because the last two albums were concepts, but in the sense that it was more based on Phil's life and what he went through. So it was like, granted, a lot of it was, the story's exaggerated a little in a sense, uh, to make it a story, a fictional story, but a lot of it is fact. There's only parts here and there you kind of stretch to uh make the plot work. But we haven't really done a concept album, in a hot minute, I guess since New Era.
Mm.
And I think it was just time. And not only that, like I feel like there's something missing when you don't have a concept with it, I mean, you look at an album cover of a band, like, it's just like going in a record store and then like seeing an album cover. You don't even know what the music's like, but you see the album cover and the album cover reflects that concept. And if it intrigues you, you're like, oh, that's cool. And then the concept's cool, then it's a win-win. So I think that having the concept be solid this time around and having it was a must, and then having a album art that makes you look at it and go, that's unsettling. And then you realize like that the concept's pretty wild too. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it all works together.
yeah, for sure. Now, have you had a chance to take any of this new material out on the road and play it live?
Yeah, yeah, we played when Visceral came out, we were playing it live, and then as a bonus for that tour, even though it wasn't out yet, we played Hymns live just to get a little hype around it, just be like, we know you guys don't know this, but here you go. We're gonna play it anyway. So we played Hymns live as well, and I think this upcoming tour we're gonna, we'll add a few more. So
Absolutely. And at this stage, is the tour just looking at being a US based tour, or are there plans to expand that to the rest of the world?
at the moment, yes. The rest of the world, it'll be more probably after the summer because we do the spring tour and then we've got European festivals and stuff this summer. And then no, excuse me, nothing's set in stone as of yet after the Euro festival. So that's when we're looking into, taking, the hymns tour, I guess you could say, and like, into other parts of the world. So
Hopefully, we get a Guernsey in that too. That'd be great to see you guys out
uh,
here and to hear this record live. Or elements of this record live.
I haven't got to, I missed the last time in Australia, when the band was there, but the two times I've been, man, I love Australia. It's such a good time. I love it there. We we got to or I got to experience with a tradition in Perth, which was Victoria Bitter, the beer, VB. Oh God, it was very not good, but it was worth the experience.
Absolutely, but yet there are people here that you know swear by it, won't drink
Swear
anything
by
else. It's crazy.
to each their own. We have PBR here, which is, it's the same idea. It's just cheap beer that people swear by.
Yeah, that gets the job done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, when you talk about obviously festivals are a different beast to doing your own headline shows or your own sets. Is there an idea around taking this album and the concept into a live show, or will it just be select?
Well, you have you're kind of limited when it comes to the festivals because it's not your stage, unless you're like one of the main headliners. So,
Yeah, yeah,
uh, with the festivals, depending on your slot, sometimes it's just get up there, go and play the songs. We'll pick and choose the songs we want to play that flow good, short and sweet to the point. We might have 30 minutes. Um, Other times we get a little more time and a little more say so production. And if that's the case, we will bring, a show with us when it comes to production and we'll make it more like, a headlining set. And I feel like that's the time when we really get to shine on, you know, the material along with the production, is on a big setting like that. Whereas, there is something to be said about watching a band in a club with good production. It's more intimate and but then seeing a band like Meshuggah at a festival, you can't
yeah,
beat it. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly right.
and especially when it's the right time slot, the sun just went down and like, you can see the lights better on stage and everything. And it's like, it's a whole vibe. So you got to pick and choose your battles at festivals, as depending on your slot and how much time you have and what you're given to work with. So
Mm, absolutely. Now, as a guitarist, I mean, there are three guitarists in Whitechapel. How do you? I mean, how do the three of you, you know, integrate and what sort of roles do you play within, you know, this writing process? It's I could imagine it would be fairly tricky to, you know, take three different inspirations to you know put into a bundle or a ball that becomes a track.
there's a lot of bickering. There's a lot of debating. But I think at the end of the day, we try to run it like a democracy in the sense that, look, even though your heart is set on this material, like if one person's heart is set on something they've written or something we've been working on, if the whole group thinks it's just not going to work or it just needs to be different, then that just is what it is. Um, that's the way it's always been. We don't say, we don't sit here and go, well, I wrote it, we're going to use it. That's just, that's local band like bullshit. Like it's just you have to make a compromise. And the thing is, the best material we do is with all three of our heads in the in the pot, like putting in input. Like every song on this album, save for like you know there might be songs that the bulk of a song is like one member, but there's still parts from other people, or at least there's always input because we self-produce and I mainly produce all this album. And the majority of this album has riffs and ideas from all three of us, and those end up being the best songs. And then it's it's beneficial to swallow our pride and just be like, this is for the good of the whole song. Even if my part didn't work, that's just stuff we got past years and years ago. And yeah, it's just the name of the game. Sometimes a lot of your shit's used and sometimes it might not be, but you know, think about it's not like you didn't sit there and not give input on the song the whole time. Even if the riff wasn't yours, you may have structured the whole song, So, uh, but as far as the roles we all play, uh, Sav mainly does a lot of the lead work, and Alex and I, uh, mainly rhythm, but I'll do leads here and there. But Alex is kind of the business guy when it comes to the band, whereas I'll do all the engineering and uh, audio stuff. Sav's like a lot of the artwork and video, uh, like when we do the song videos and stuff like that. He does a lot of the concept and producing and stuff like that for that. So
So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's an amazingly well-oiled machine, and that everybody has their part. I love hearing about this sort of stuff in unity with the band. It shows strength, I guess, in a brotherhood and in a commitment as a band to deliver everything as it needs to be. Is there something that you're particularly proud of on this record? I know you've been very hands-on when you say that you've done some of the production work and so forth on it. What's your proudest moment on this record?
um, two things really, I'd say. I think the the fine line of getting the look of the cover and what the artwork inspires, crossing the line of what the material sounds like and makes you feel like, and them working together. That to me is hard to achieve sometimes. Like you want it to be a whole. You want to look at it's like I was saying when you go into a record store, like you want to look at the album and whatever you see and feel from that cover, you want to feel it and hear it in the music.
Yeah.
And um the idea with this album, when you get done with it, I want it, we want it to be like there's no happy ending. I want you to be left with the feeling of emptiness like that. The example I've been using, there's this movie called Vivarium. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's it's one of those movies that just goes downhill the whole movie, and it just ends. There's just no happy ending, and it leaves you just going, "Fuck," So, uh, so I think if we achieve that, I think I'm very proud of that because it is hard to pull that off. I feel like for bands, like getting everything to meld together and just work together as far as the physical look of it and the auditory part of it. And the second thing, I really, really enjoyed doing the instrumental, the the interlude track because it was just like a lot of fun to do something that like because I was inspired by what the concept was becoming, and when I sat down to really just like work on that interlude, I was like, it wasn't hard in the sense that like I knew what I wanted because I wanted to feel this. Like if I was hearing this, I wanted it to feel like uh you can see in your head what's going on just by hearing it. And I think that was really, that just turned out really cool, I think.
Yeah, there is a strong sort of visualization when it comes to listening to the record. So, and that storytelling again, I'll go back to that, is on point. Is very, very much on point with this record. If we can, and we just go back to what we were talking about with the album artwork meeting the expectations, or following the expectations of what's inside the sleeve. What album for you is
Oh,
the
that's a good one.
pinnacle of that?
I like that question. I'd say let me think here. I know one for sure is it's a Finnish band called Amorphous. Uh, they've been around for a hot minute, but they have an album called Tales from the Thousand Lakes, and the artwork on the front is just awesome, and the music just totally reflected the artwork, and it's just one of those albums. That's probably if I had to give you the main influence for what makes me think of why an album should work like I was talking about with the artwork and the material and the storytelling, it is that album. Um, that one and probably probably Horacle by In Flames. I feel like the whole uh cover art and just the album, the material, all of that too was just it just all worked. And those two for sure for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny how you mentioned that because it actually got me thinking. It's like, okay, what for me personally has matched, everything. And I guess I throw back to, the first time I saw Kiss Alive, the
Oh,
cover.
right.
And for me, that explosion of everything that was on that record was larger than life, as was this album cover. And when you put it into that perspective and you go, okay, so what album matches it, you know, matches both parts perfectly. It makes a lot of sense, and hence the question. I'm always interested to see what.
I feel like a lot of people underestimate that quality in their material. Like it's not. I'm not trying to sound like back in my day that it was all physical. But even then, if it's just all digital now, you can still try to portray that imagery with your material, and I feel like a lot of people take that for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. I
You got to
mean, as
make
you
it work.
probably see from behind me, I'm a huge vinyl fan.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I love physical product. I love thumbing through booklets. I mean, digital's great for convenience, but there's nothing like physically holding a product in your hand, and being able to, you know, just dive into it all.
I've
Absorb every bit that comes with the packaging and the music. So
I've been on a tear the past few years. Like if I'm on the road, I'll go in these record stores. To the point now where it's like I'll collect. If I find some good metal, I will. But mostly, I'm like looking for like Deep Purple and Dio and like Rainbow and stuff like that, bands like that, because I feel like I messed it on them when I was younger, and as I got older, I just started to fall in love with bands like that. So, because I grew up on a lot of classic rock, but I just missed those. I missed those trains when I was younger. So like I'm catching up.
it's an amazing little rabbit hole to go down to. It,
Oh
it
yeah,
never ends. And the bands that you mentioned, I mean, a lot. That's what a lot of my back catalogue is. It's the stuff that I kind of grew up on. I guess I was kind of lucky that I grew up on, and from a very early age was exposed to bands like Status Quo and Deep Purple and Queen, and that's where it all sort of started for me. Um, and
phenomenal era of music.
it's funny how it stays with you.
Oh
How
yeah.
it's timeless and
You can
still.
learn a lot from those. You can learn a lot from those bands, man, as far as songcraft goes. Like, like taking a journey when you listen to those albums. Like that's there's a lot of lessons to be learned in that, even if the material is not your cup of tea. But um, yeah,
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Zach. We're almost out of time. I really do appreciate you, finding the time to accommodate me in having this chat. Um, I wish you guys all the success with this record, and I'm sure that once fans get their hands on it and into their ears, it will create, quite a stir. I think it's such an amazing record.
well, I
Uh,
appreciate the compliments, man, for sure. Thank you.
and yeah, I mean, it was heavier than I anticipated. I got to admit, first listen, I was just like, "What the fuck is this?"
Good, good,
And
good.
that's a great thing, to
No, I
be
agree.
able to shake and rattle a tree from somebody who listens to a lot of music is great. Um, so just to cap off on the release of the album, CD, vinyl, streaming, obviously. Are there any limited edition packages coming forward,
I
or?
think we did the pre-order limited edition vinyls and stuff like that, and I think they already sold out. But we will be doing another pressing of those at one point. But vinyls take a long time to press, so uh, yeah. So we will do them again, but just keep an eye out. So
Absolutely. Well, congrats on the album. Thank you for your time. And if we play our cards right, we might see you out here later in the year, which would be
absolutely, we'll have a we'll have a VB. Hopefully, we'll see.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Or,
all right,
or,
brother.
so-
Take it
or
easy, man.
something. We'll find
All
something
right,
to substitute that with,
a
I'm
little
sure.
better probably. All
All
right.
right, Zach. Thank you so much for your time, mate,
Yes,
and
sir.
see you again soon.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Take it easy.